Hello, friends. This is Wheezy from the What is Truth Podcast. This is a small clip. If this clip interests you and you would like to catch the entire episode, please visit the linktree. You will find many different platforms and check it out there. Definitely give me a follow on those extra platforms. And this is due to the heavy censorship times that we are all going through at the moment. So thank you for all your support. Much love, hugs, and kisses. Hey everyone, happy Saturday. Happy Saturday to everyone that's following me. No longer on Rockfin, but we will find a way. Where there is a will, there is a way. Today should be a fun show. I am joined by Miss Heidi Luv of the Unfiltered Rise Podcast. How are you, Miss Heidi?
Wonderful. So glad to be here.
Absolutely. Yeah, and today we will be talking about Mormons. And it is one of these subjects that I've actually wanted to do for quite some time. I was born in California, but I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah for 20 years. And I'm now in Florida.
Not more? As a never mow?
Yeah, never mow. Yeah, it's funny because growing up, anytime I told people that I lived in Utah, first thing out of their mouth, "Are you Mormon?" I'm like, no, never was, never will be. These days, I was raised Catholic, and very, very Catholic. My dad is hardcore. He's a jihadi Catholic. I am no longer a believer, but I don't know what it is. I love learning about other religions and faiths, even though I'm not a believer myself. I just find it interesting. I love to learn about everyone and every little thing that I can about the various Christian sects or Judaism, the various Jewish sects, the various Islamic sects. I mean, there's so many branches to all of them, and that's what fascinates me. Even though I'm a non-believer, and today,
right.
I want to go over Mormonism because I did spend 20 years in Salt Lake City, Utah, and who better to do the show with someone that is an ex Mormon? Before we get started, let us know a little bit about yourself, Miss Heidi.
Sure. I am Heidi Luv. That is really my name. I didn't make that one up. My parents made that one up in the 70s. And so, I grew up here in Utah for the most part. I was in Idaho for a little while, but I was born here. I am like settler heritage. I said Mormon royalty once and somebody got mad at me. I meant my family is a royal line and they became Mormon and moved here. So not like on the scale of Mormons and hierarchy there. They were pretty prominent families though. And so for my whole life, I think basically my whole life was surrounded around Mormonism. If anybody's ever lived in Utah, such as yourself, that's why I said as a never mow, that's rough, bro. Rough deal. Like every girl you dated was like, I don't know, because you're not Mormon. No, if she was Mormon, right?
Yeah, it's definitely in the thing, especially now being here in Florida. There's you'll run into people that have never even heard of Mormons, don't even know what a Mormon is, and so it's one of those things where you either you're in the mix and you know a lot about Mormonism, or you really don't know much. And I think when Mitt Romney entered the political scene, that kind of piqued a lot of people's interest outside of Utah, if you will, because he became somewhat of a national public figure. But it's super interesting. Growing up in Utah, I became friends with a lot of Mormons. I still have a lot of friends that are Mormons. So even though some of the language we may be using today will be a little harsh, I want people to know it's not that I'm anti-Mormon. I have a lot of strong views with Catholicism. I was raised Catholic. My dad is still hardcore Catholic. So anytime I criticize any faiths, my view is anyone should be up, for criticism, and you should be able to put them under the microscope. And that's what troubles me with some of the talk today. It seems like some faiths get a little bit more extra protections, and I'm completely against it. Everyone should be held to that same exact standard. But yeah, I mean, for those people that may not be familiar with Mormonism, don't fret. Miss Heidi's going to give us a little bit of a history background, and Mormonism, the founder of Mormonism is Joseph Smith. So if you could give us, maybe we should be able to start there from the origins and then work our way to somewhat of the more present day connotations with it.
Yes, it's a different so when I talk about Mormons, a lot of times I get called anti-Mormon. I am anti any kind of religion that is in bed with the government, that is in bed with tax deductions at a not normal level, like at a higher level, because they're doing a quid pro quo exchange. I am not a religious person in any aspect of any kind of sect, but I am a Christian. I follow Christian values, but that doesn't mean I don't read like the Book of Enoch or extra canonical books or find important information in the occult, which is took me down a weird road. But I really did get called to this. And when I speak about this stuff, people are always saying, well, you bash Mormons. Hold on. My whole family is still Mormon, except me, my kids, and my mom. So when that happens, and my husband, sorry about that. And when that happens, it's a very hard existence. Nevermos have it a lot easier than an Exmo, because to them, I am the worst thing that can happen. I am the example of what is everything wrong in my future, because I'm going to be going to outer darkness, according to them, because I did go through the temple. I was married in the temple. I took out the highest rites and I turned away. So, I want people to know this. If you are a magician, if you are a Catholic, if you are a Mormon, if you are any of the things that we're talking about here, and you have certain things where you harness energy from a group of people without their consent, right? No. If you're a magician and you do it with consent, I have no qualms about it. You go do that. If you want to, be an occultist and everybody in the room agrees, that is something that is not travesty to me. You can't make people's choices for them. However, what I feel the Mormon Church does is it's a huge loosh grab about a bunch of people that don't know what they're doing. And that is why I started speaking out, because as I learned this, I thought, well, that's completely unfair. My grandma just thought this was about going to heaven. And when it became something else, that was a huge ordeal for me. So that's why I speak out. I'm not bashing anybody. I kind of been come out a lot in the last month. And when I tell you guys things, they're heavily researched, and I try to bring slides. I don't know if that's available here, but I can do it without either way.
Yeah, if you just share screen, if you look at that little bottom middle tab, it'll say present.
Gotcha.
And then you can present whatever you have.
Do it. It helps me keep my place, kind of, I guess is the best way to say that. But it also shows, being a person that lived in Utah, and how Mormons are probably, and I would say for them, they're a hard group to really change their mind, right? They're like hardcore. And if you don't bring some sort of proof, and knowing this because I was one, can you see this okay?
Yeah, I can see.
Okay. And so I wanted to put together some slides from mostly their church history. And a lot of this, if it's not, I can tell you what books to go to and different things, but I've been kind of accused of, just blaspheming against them, and that's fine. But I understand it's a sensitive situation. So the first thing we want to talk about before we talk about anybody and how they develop is their family. Because if you really want to know about people, you have to know where they came from. Doesn't mean they're exactly like their family. Doesn't mean you can't change it. Doesn't mean you can't stop and go a different way. It just helps influence who you become at some point in little levels. So we have, Joseph Smith Sr., and that is Joseph Smith Jr.'s dad, who is the founder of the church's junior. And he is born at Topsfield, Massachusetts. Now put that in your back pocket, because that's going to be important here later. But his parents' names, Mary's not a huge name, but Oziel is a strange name if you know anything about fallen angels and whatnot. But people have come at me for making that comment. I'm just saying it's not a common name for Christians. It's not. I do a lot of genealogical searching, data searching. It's not a common name in general. And so I found it kind of an interesting little name. He also dies on Halloween, which is whatever. Can't change when you die, but it's kind of fun. And then Lucy Mack. And so Lucy Mack Smith is his mother, and she actually wrote some books, and she's going to come up quite a bit in our chat. So, and the church tried to extinct her books. This is Lucy Mack Smith, and she did write a book that Brigham Young, who took over the church, tried to have completely annihilated. She says some truths in there that are not highly popular with how the church ended up going. And, it was the controversy of the times. But Lucy Mack Smith here, she forged through and got her book published. So in her excerpts, and this particular excerpt is from the Church History Museum, Salt Lake City, Utah. I put it there so that you guys can find it for yourself, where you can go look for it. But this kind of sparked my interest in some things when I started trying to learn about what I had actually done as a Mormon in the LDS Temple. I became a Christian, non-denominational, and I wanted to know what were the things we were doing, because they seemed weird. Maybe not nefarious at the time or anything. I just didn't know what it was. And so, like you, I found interest in not just Mormonism, but other religions. But I want to know at least what I had done. They don't really teach you too much about that. They just tell you this is how you advance up and how you go to heaven and everything's okay. And you do it, even if you don't agree with it, because your whole family's there and it's the best day of your life. You've worked for this. And so when I found this little excerpt, I was starting to learn a lot more about different history in general. And so she talks about something strange. And she says, "Let not my reader suppose that because I shall pursue another topic for a season, that we stopped our labor and went at trying to win the faculty of a brack, drawing circles, magic circles, or soothsaying to the neglect of all kinds of business." Now, she's saying this in a letter to her friend and basically saying, I'm not lazy. We're not just doing that. This family is known for water witching, treasure digging, all kinds of things at this point. They're a magical family. Don't forget where they hail from. They originally, on the father's side, hail from Massachusetts, and it's going to play a big part in things, and you'll see why. But so, this is just a little picture of Abraxas. When we talk about House of Abrac and drawing magical things like this is specifically what she was talking about. We have to put in, yes, we know he was a Mason. It's not hidden. It was at one time, but not now. He was a Master Mason, and he became a Master Mason in one day. That's unusual. And so you really have to know some things or have a bloodline or something to even get to that point. So it was interesting how he achieved that as well. So that's just a little background on his family, but even his grandparents, who, remember, now this boy is said to be a poor farm boy, and he's basically illiterate. All of this kind of goes into the church later, where they will say he was illiterate. He had to have been given divine revelation because of this. Well, I have a little problem with that, because his brother Hiram ended up going to Dartmouth Indian College. It was a section of their college. Why he was able to get in there, it's, speculated. He had multiple uncles that taught over in that area, and I think probably he was able to go for that reason. Also, the family from Massachusetts, and that would be Ozael's family, was pretty critical in statesmen, government. These people were not backwards. In fact, I want to say it was not Ozael, but his father's father that was involved in the Boston Tea Party. They were patriots. This was like a very reputable family that were statesmen in that area for over 20 years per historical record. They had money. He was an attorney. He isn't a poor, dumb farm boy. And he was also involved in the Inquisition in Massachusetts with the witch burning as an accuser on the other side against his own sister-in-law. And that was interesting as well. So, when you think of something like that and you turn and point your finger, oftentimes, not every time, what do they say? Methinks you protest too much. And I always wonder, what did he know? But regardless, we get back to the story from the church. And this is where Joseph says he didn't know which church to join. Now, he is growing up in something called the Burned Over District, and it had a lot of religious basically at that time. And he wanted to know which church he should join. So according to the church's piece on this, there are 4 different recollections of the first vision written down by Joseph Smith. So yes, the church has theirs that they like, but there are many. So when people say that's not what that said, you might want to check which one. He has been confirmed that there are multiple versions of his account. So he is 14 years old in the church's account, and he goes into a grove of trees to pray because the Bible says, ask ye of God and he'll tell you. And he wants to know which church to join. So he gets down on his knees and he starts to pray, and a fit of darkness comes over him. Okay. Now, I said he passed out. It's argued in multiple different accounts, but regardless, we'll just leave it at a fit of darkness comes over him, and he cries out to be saved, and these apparitions show up. So he believes them to be Jesus Christ and God the Father, because Mormons do not believe in the Trinity. They believe in 3 separate beings, for Holy Ghost, the Father, and the Son. And so they come to him and say, don't join any of them. You're going to make your own church, and we're going to send some more people for you. So, and this one is who got sent. So Moroni came, and he's an angel. Now, right there, I have a problem with the word angel. Moroni was a dead guy. And, people say, well, maybe he was already, leveled to the angels, and he maybe, resurrect. I don't know of any that were like that, but that's fine. Whatever they want to say. Joseph Smith has seen at least upwards of 24 apparitions, dead people, angels, different things. So, per his own account, and including dead relatives and John the Baptist. So when we're talking about this particular spirit he saw, he did live once on this earth, and he was a Native American that turned white later. And this is his story, that this Native American was in the area where he lived, and he buried some golden plates there after a large war of him and his people and another people, so the Nephites and the Lamanites, and he buried his record. And so he tells Joseph, the truth is in here, go find it. They're golden plates, but you have to be pure of heart to get these things. So he doesn't get them right away. It takes a long time. And this is another, rendition of Moroni. Moroni is holding the trumpet, which is pretty interesting when you start studying about some different things. But anyways, he's usually always on the top of the Mormon Church, on the temple. And so not church, on the temple. And they have gone back and forth lately, I guess, about adding it to every temple. It used to be every temple. Now I've heard they're not going to do it on every temple. So I don't know. They're changing things all the time. But that is a representation of the angel that Joseph spoke to. Well, Joseph was trying for years upon years to get these plates. I believe he was almost 22 when he finally did get them. And even though the first vision happened when he was a 14-year-old boy, and over the years when he would go through and try to do this, weird things would happen. Like a toad one time punched him in the face. And these are all accounts because he got arrested, and there were a bunch of affidavits that were brought up in his court case. So these are on the record. They're easy to see. Willard Chase is one of them. That was his neighbor. But anyways, on and on it goes for quite a few years. And he finally eventually gets to the point where on a dark night on the fall equinox, he borrows a black horse from a neighbor. And this account is more than Willard Chase's, because the neighbor he had to borrow the black horse from comes into play. Multiple people gave this account that he, dressed in all black, goes to the hill to talk to the angel again. And he finally gives up the plates to Joseph. And these are a little out of order. But the funny thing is the one thing he did ask and require of Joseph Smith was that he bring his brother Alvin with him. And there was a little problem with that because his brother Alvin had passed away. And so everybody jokes that Alvin had a hand in Mormonism because here's the frog rendition. And there was an article ran by the Smith family in the Palmyra newspaper at that time. They ran it 3 times, stating, I'm going to give the synopsis. Basically, we dug up Alvin because you guys were talking crap on us and saying that we defiled his body, and we didn't. And so we dug him up to show you guys. Seems strange. But regardless, this is what they're going with. They ran it 3 times. As you can see, the dates are there. All the information is there. If you guys want to find it for yourself, you absolutely can. And, it's hypothesized that, they took possibly a hand or some such thing to appease this angel. Also, Joseph took his new wife with him at that time, Emma. And Emma got pregnant during this short time period after, and she gives birth to a baby. The baby is horrifically deformed, and they named it also his dead brother's name, Alvin. So that was interesting. Regardless, he gets these plates and he starts translating them. This is the story the church told me for years upon years. There was a Shi'i, and they used the Urim and Thummim, which is this breastplate that he has on with the glasses. Can you see those?
Yeah.
Okay. So he says he used this to translate it with. In truth, and those we cannot see.
There's the seer stones.
Yes. In truth, it is the seer stones in a hat, much like our friend John D. John D, wow, that went crazy. But that's another cool little picture there. This is also another good one, a rendition here. And we'll talk about this pouch here soon. But yeah, he used multiple seer stones, and they never ever told us. In fact, when South Park came out with their little bit, we all laughed because I was still in it that time. Oh my gosh, look at how stupid they are. Well, okay, let's go to present day. Here is the current prophet, seer, and revelator of the church, Russell M. Nelson, Skull and Bones member, and also Alan Key member of University of Utah, the only branch that I know of set up by Yale, actually sanctioned by Yale because the Mormons had family that were in Skull and Bones and ran it at that time. So Russell M. Nelson, surgeon, prophet, seer, revelator, Skull Bones member, pulls the hat out of nowhere. It's a magical trick. And he takes these photo ops, and all of us that were older members went, wait, what? You said this was fake. What about the breastplate and the glasses? And, a lot of us had a moment with it because it was just not what we had been told ever. In fact, they made jokes about it, and people kept asking, well, if he used that breastplate and those glasses, where are they? Well, the angel came and took them back. And so all of that becomes pretty hard to swallow. And I think they just thought, you know what, we'll just go with the hat and let him have it. But when you talk about, scrying, basically they block out all the sun, or they focus in on something like Nostradamus used water. You can use mirrors. You can, scrying's open for lots of different ways, but you are kind of automatic writing where he had a scribe to write down what he would say because these symbols were what they wrote it in, and then he would decode the symbols later. And so he called it Reformed Egyptian because he wasn't really sure what it was, but we'll go over that too.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting.
That's one of my favorite parts of it.
It gets interesting, right?
Yeah. I would like to talk a little bit about I think we touched on it, then we went through another subject, but America Primeval, because that's still rather fresh, rather hot
yes.
in the news.
It's kind of fake, just so you know. 80% of it, well, okay, the bad parts are real. B, the love story's bunk. Nobody lived.
Yeah.
C,
they ended on a cheesy note. God damn it. It was so good.
They
and they
should
had
have
to
left
end it
it.
in the cheesiest way possible.
Yeah, it was not, there was nobody that lived actually. And I found it really interesting where if you look at the Mormon genealogy of Joseph Smith, like I told you, what happened at the Boston Tea Party? Does anybody remember? They dressed up as Native Americans and they dumped the tea in the harbor. And who was this planned by? Joseph Smith's great 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 grandpa. And then what happens again when we get here? Oh, same narrative. Dress up as Native
Whoa.
Americans.
Joseph Smith's grandpa planned the Tea Party?
Yes, I will tell you his
No
name. Let me.
freaking way. That is
Yes.
that's awesome to know. The more you
Yes,
know.
and most people don't know that, and the way you have to trace that because they obfuscate his lines so terribly, you have to go up through his uncle Jesse and then go up through the genealogy that way because otherwise it's like they don't know where she came from. They don't know where his parents. No, they do. They do. They have it all. They definitely do.